In the summer of 2021, I went to a whole bunch of different Catholic and Orthodox churches. Here is what I found. Before I get into what I found, maybe I should talk about why I went on this journey. So first, John Paul II's Ut Unum Sint says the church can't be divided. It has to breathe with her two lungs, east and west. And so I went to go experience east and west as best as I could. And as you'll see, I have a lot of work to do because it's nearly an impossible task. I'll show you why right now, because there's not two east and west, there are six. Alexandrian, Armenian, Byzantine, which we commonly call the East, Latin, which we commonly call the West, East Syriac, and West Syriac. So the Alexandrian Rite, all of these are the same, more or less, in that we Catholics believe that all of them, more or less, produce the Eucharist, confect the Eucharist, have valid apostolic succession, all of these important things. There are a lot more things than the Mass you normally go to on Sunday as a Catholic. So the Alexandrian Rite has two epicleses, one before the Divine Liturgy, that is Mass, actually begins. It lasts about twice as long as any of the other liturgies. And so, yeah, normally it's 3+ hours out of your Sunday morning. The Armenian Rite does something unusual. They mix water. They don't mix the water with the wine like everybody else does. So again, everybody has their own little variations gone about by the different traditions over the years. Now, they also use unleavened bread, which is not unique to the Latin Rite. It's also used in the Armenian Rite. The Byzantines use leavened bread. As I mentioned, we in the Latin Rite use unleavened bread. We also, in the ordinary form, have one of the shortest, if not the shortest, liturgy across the board. It has the lowest number of psalms per liturgy, only really having one complete psalm in it, which is very low. And it also has the most variation pre-anaphora that I could find. Now, that's not to say it's good or bad, one way or the other. That's just kind of the finding that we have here. Now, in the East Syriac Rite, sometimes in the non-Catholic East Syrians, they don't have the words of institution, which is highly unusual. They have up to 5 readings on a given day that they have liturgy, and that's from the Law, the Prophets, the Acts of the Apostles, the letter to Paul, and then the Gospel. That's 5 total readings. In the West Syriac Rite, they have the most anaphora that we know of. They have over 80 Anaphorae. Anaphora meaning the canon, the Eucharistic prayer. We in the Latin Rite have 4 generally of those. They have 80. So let's talk about the different anaphoras that exist. So more properly, Anaphorae, but anaphoras is easier to say, I think. And so, here are all of the ones that I know of. A lot of them exist, and here are the ones that I've been to. All of them go away because I haven't been to very many of them. I haven't been to any Armenian. I haven't been to any East Syrian. I haven't been to any Giez, a type of Alexandrian Rite. Haven't been to 2 out of the 4 Latin versions. So there's a lot of different things that I'm missing out on here on this study, but nonetheless, here are some of the ones that I did go to. That should say the Liturgy of Basil on the Alexandrian Coptic side there. I went to a Coptic Orthodox church in the Byzantine Rite. I've been to 2 Greek Catholic and 4 Greek Orthodox churches. Those are listed there using the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. The Latin Rite, I'm only going to talk about 12 because they have important variations from type to type, and those types I'm calling our conference, average, and impressive. So consider those for what you will once I get to talking about them. And then, of course, the extraordinary form having both a low Mass and a high Mass that I'll discuss. In the West Syriac Rite, I went to 2 different Maronite Catholic churches, and those have a number of different anaphoras. The Maronite Catholic Church has the most anaphoras out of anybody. So the West Syriac has the most out of any rite. The Maronites have the most out of anybody. And so they're the big deal here. I have a handful. I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but there's definitely a large selection to choose from. So let's get into it. So we're going to start out, of course, with the Alexandrian Rite. It's the first alphabetically. That's how we're going to do it. Today, this one is a Coptic Orthodox church. Just remember, some of these clips are over like a year and a half old. So no facial hair, and some of them you'll see it start to grow throughout the show. This one, no facial hair. It's early on. Let's get into it. St. Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church in Columbus.
Good morning, and yes, I got a haircut, as you can see. Today I'm in Lincoln Village in Columbus, Ohio, and behind me right here is St. Mary Coptic Orthodox Church. That's my first Oriental Orthodox church. Now, they have statues of Mary outside, so that's kind of interesting for an Orthodox church, at least in my experience, so that's going to be fun. Maybe feel a little out of place because, you know, everybody's Coptic and I'm white, but you know, we'll see how it goes. As always, it's going to be great, and I'll see you guys later.
So as you see now, we're going through the outside of the church, inside the church, of course, but outside the worship space itself. It has a nice big window, I assume, so kids and families can be outside. And once again, Mary in the center of the iconostasis. As we look around the church here, we see icons, and they're actually labeled underneath in English. That way you know what the icons themselves represent. Up in either corner, they have screens showing the liturgy, both in English and in the Coptic language, which is extremely helpful if you know Coptic, and extremely helpful if you know English. As they open up the screen to the iconostasis, you can see through and see the priest there wearing a bishop-like mitre, as we would see it in the Latin Rite. So a few things that I want to know about this liturgy. Number one, at the very beginning of the video, I mentioned how it was odd that there are statues of Mary, and it's a church named St. Mary, so you think, why is that odd? Well, it's because it's Orthodox. Normally, they don't have a lot of statues. Number two is the number of ministers in the sanctuary. They're all priests, and they aren't not all priests, is what I meant to say, but they are all men, and they all take their shoes off upon entering the sanctuary. In fact, near what looks like the cathedra there on the left-hand side is a whole like storage bin for their shoes, which is quite impressive. And then another thing I wanted to mention is the style of chant. The style of chant is very, very Syriac in comparison to, say, the Greek version, the Byzantine types of chant, or the Latin types of chant. It's very Syriac, which I guess makes sense because Syria and that general region, Lebanon, that region is much closer to Egypt than is Greece. But the chant's kind of a mix between the two, I feel like, but it seems to me to lean more Syrian. Moving on to the Greek churches, we're going Catholic and then Orthodox, again alphabetical, because that's the best way I think that I can do this instead of chronological, because it was kind of all over the place in terms of when I actually visited these places. So this one's St. John Chrysostom, Ruthenian Byzantine Greek Catholic Church in Columbus near Westerville, Ohio. So here's the view on the front side of the church, much more like an Orthodox church. Here's the inside. Once again, very beautiful, very ornate here, both left and right sides of the church, and then there's with the screen open up so that you can see through to the back side.
With all of you, and with your spirit, how we commemorate those saints again and again in peace of the grateful. Lord, have mercy. For the precious gifts offered and consecrated to our God, who loves us all, and receive them most holy, heavenly, and mystical order, as the room of spiritual fragrance. Send down upon us in return His divine grace, the gift of the Holy Spirit. Let us pray. Lord, have mercy.
So yeah, I'll apologize now for my singing throughout the video, or chanting rather throughout the video. I was learning, especially at this point. I still, of course, am trying to learn how to chant better and better, but I also want to participate in the liturgy, especially the Catholic liturgies, that which will receive the Most Holy Eucharist. And so this is me participating, but hopefully you get the point of what the Byzantine chant sounds like, and that's about pretty consistent, both Catholic and Orthodox.
Hello, today I'm doing a double header. First off is what's right over here, Holy Resurrection Melkite Greek Catholic Church. There's people outside, so I don't want to bother them with my random talking. But yeah, it doesn't look like anything too crazy from the outside. Likely a parish hall and a church together is my guesstimate from the building on the outside. Nothing too ornate from the outside. Looks kind of like a rectangular building. However, later today, we'll be going to the Maronite Divine Liturgy at St. Andrew's in Upper Arlington, Ohio. I was there 2 weeks ago, but they didn't have Divine Liturgy because their pastor was getting changed out, and I didn't know that.
So here is the look inside of the church. Like I said, it's a parish hall and a church. Here's the church part of the church. You can tell by the ceiling. It's a mission church, and that's what it is. Now, also of note, the priest at this Divine Liturgy is the same one in the previous video, because the priest that's at this parish was not there. In the back, you just saw Saint Charbel, which is one of the saints of the Syrian Lebanon region. So the Melkites actually generally are more Arabic speaking than they are Greek speaking, but nonetheless, that is the liturgy that they hold. As you look inside of the iconostasis, again, you can see the priest and of course Mary behind that, and our Lord on top of the ceiling. So you just heard part of the prayer to the Most Holy Trinity during the offertory procession, which, as you can see in the Greek Rite, is a very big deal, much bigger than it is here in the West. So that just to show you what that's like, and usually there's servers and lots of things like that. But again, this is a mission church, and so that's something to expect. And also, many Orthodox churches are like this, and Eastern Catholic churches are like this. They're very small communities, not necessarily great singing, but they give the best they have. Their worship space is the best they have, and they make it very beautiful nonetheless. Keep this one short. We move on to the Greek Orthodox liturgies. This took place at Holy Ascension Antiochian Greek Orthodox Church in Norman over the past two Paschas, mostly from Pascha 2021, a little bit from Pascha 2022. This was my first Greek Orthodox Divine Liturgy. And here is some clips from it. It was a fantastic time. Afterward, a huge party and all that. I'll talk more about that.
Hey guys, happy Saturday. I guess it's 10:30 p.m., 30 minutes before Divine Liturgy starts at Holy Ascension Antiochian Greek Orthodox Church. Yeah, we got the rosary hanging out at the Orthodox Church still in the car. Anyways, we're going to see how it goes. Probably, my guess is the service alone will last 2 to 3 hours. And that includes the rush service, the orthros, which is like morning prayers for us Catholics, and also includes, of course, the Divine Liturgy, which is usually longer than your average Mass as it is. So I'm going to go in there, see what happens, pray a little bit before the liturgy begins, and hopefully have quite the experience. I'm pretty nervous, which is weird, but it's also my first Orthodox Divine Liturgy ever, so it's something to look forward to, and something I hope by 1 or 2 o'clock on Sunday, May 2nd, Easter Sunday for the Orthodox, that I'll be happy I did. So, and I'm sure I will. So here we go.
So here is a tour kind of around the church, and as you see, there are icons everywhere. Remember, this was my first time in an Orthodox or even Greek Eastern Catholic church, so the number of icons was just overwhelming almost, and I'm an iconophile, so, sue me. But, just going around this church, seeing all of the icons that were there was mind-blowing in itself. It contrasts the light of the icons with the darkness, and it's a whole crazy different thing. So here is kind of how it looks in the dark. Let's see what happens. So you just saw some clips there from the triumph of the Holy Cross. There's also clips throughout Pascha, the lighting of the candles, as well as, a number of other things in the second Pascha there where, maybe not as many people are wearing masks as the first one. And it was really just a crazy experience, just so much going on, all the chanting, beautiful chanting, of course, for Pascha, and then even there, you saw a little bit of clip from the Kyries during the basically Stations of the Cross, but not really the veneration of the cross, I guess, on the exaltation of the Holy Cross feast day, and just so much going on. Huge party afterward, lots of food, and it was great to meet the Orthodox students of the University of Oklahoma there afterwards. Just super friendly. Great group of people. I believe Holy Cross is the only Orthodox mission church I went to. This is our Carpatho-Russian Orthodox Greek Catholic church. It's a handful of words to say. I didn't even put them all on this slide here. In an amazing church, amazing community. I'll talk more about that after the list.
Today I'm at Holy Cross Carpatho-Russian Orthodox Mission. You can see behind me here, it's an office building. It's a mission church, so we'll see.
And teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. On you I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, your tender mercies and your loving kindness, for they have been from old.
Thank you also for this liturgy, which you are worthy to receive from our hands, even though they stand before you thousands of archangels, tens of thousands of angels, cherubim and seraphim, six-winged and many-eyed, who sing, cry out, and proclaim the triumphant hymn, saying, Holy, holy, holy.
So, of course, they have the Byzantine style chant, but the main thing was after this liturgy, they had a coffee and donut hour, and it wasn't like a coffee and donuts after Mass, you're there for 15 minutes, have your donut, and leave. It's like everybody went out afterward and, had food. It was somebody's birthday. We had a whole thing for that, and just having great conversations with people. This was right after Traditionis Custodes was promulgated by Pope Francis, and so there was lots of discussion over, the future of the Roman Catholic Church, because I told them I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm here, just going around to all the churches. They were looking to acquire a property for a proper church, and so, of course, well wishes to them, super friendly people. And honestly, like the greatest community out of any of them, probably because it's a super small church. So our only Orthodox church in America church that I went to was St. Gregory of Nyssa. As you can see, there's an American flag up in the sanctuary, which is somewhat common in Roman Catholic churches to have the American on one side, Vatican on the other. But I think it's the only Orthodox church that I saw it in, but it makes sense. It's Orthodox church in America, so it has the American flag. Orthodox churches care very much about their nationality.
Hello everybody, today is Sunday, May 16th, 2021. Today's the Sunday of myrrh bearers in the Eastern Orthodox Church in most of the dioceses of America. It's the Solemnity of the Ascension. Elsewhere in the United States and the Roman Catholic Church, it's the seventh Sunday of Ordinary, or of Lent. Easter would be the correct season. So we're going to go in, see what it's about. This is the campus parish St. Gregory of Nyssa. We're going to see what it's about. There is an OCF group here as well at the Ohio State University. So here's a look around the church. I didn't take any video of like chanting or any of the prayers during the Divine Liturgy, but this is what we have. They had 5, I believe, visiting priests from the Serbian Orthodox Church, from the Serbian military thing. There's some organizational thing once a year they come here and meet with like the Ohio National Guard or something like that. I don't completely understand it. And they rotate, I guess, between Gregory of Nyssa and the Serbian Orthodox Church. You'll see here very shortly, literally the next few clips. And so very cool event. Of course, no people from OCF were there because it was the summer and nobody on campus at Ohio State. So not quite like it was for Pascha. Like I mentioned, here it is, Stephen of Ticane, the Serbian Orthodox Church in downtown Columbus. A beautiful church, very Russian in style, as you can kind of tell by the picture here on the screen. Let's get into it. Again, no clips from the liturgy on this one, just clips from inside and outside. This morning I'm going to St. Stephen of Ticane Serbian Orthodox Church in downtown Columbus, between the airport and CSG's Kirk campus, where they have their track and field events held at. So yeah, we're going to see what it's like. Going to be interesting. Expecting it to be not a whole lot different than what I experienced last week at the Carpatho-Russian, but we'll see. Got a green light, go. So again, here's the look from the outside. It's very stony, very square. Yeah, and then inside, like I mentioned, very Russian appearance and style. A beautiful church, one of the most beautiful churches I've been to. As for the liturgy itself, I was disappointed. And the reason I say I was disappointed is because everything was pretty good, more or less. But the main issue I had was just the choir needed like the notes for every single thing from somebody, and so it like slowed down the liturgy and also made it sound super weird, because the priest would say something and they go do 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 or whatever the tone is, and it's like, okay, well, you know, every single time they had to do that, and so it wasn't great in that aspect. And then at the end, the priest was yelling at the choir because they were singing and they weren't supposed to be. Up from the sanctuary down to the back of the church, and it was just a whole thing. I want to go back and refresh that into a much better experience, as I'm sure it would be on a normal day. Again, a beautiful church. So we now begin the Latin Rite liturgies, beginning first with the conference-style ones. I'm going to speed through these. First, the Franciscan University of Steubenville, due to their large campus and not having a church large enough, they have it basically conference-style, and I'll have a picture of what that looks like here in the next slide at the Omni Hotel in Oklahoma City. And so there was where we had Seek 2022 for all of the universities in Oklahoma. I was the MC and in charge of all of the liturgy going on. And so you can see some pictures of the holy hour, or the adoration room, and the sacristy, and adoration when we had it at night, and just everything going on. There's a lot to do when it comes to having a conference style mass, because you have to basically create a church. And so the same here shown at St. Charles, my high school, in a very similar way. There's just a lot going on, a lot to get into one place. And so it's not a proper church per se, but it is made into a church. We now begin what I would call like your average Catholic Mass. Like, this is what you're going to see at most Catholic parishes, I feel like, today, especially those built in the 60s, 70s, 80s time frame, or at least originally built, made into a parish around that time frame. First, the Church of the Madeleine in Tulsa. This is not their main church. This is their side church chapel for daily Mass. Beautiful, lots of stained glass on the outside, but not necessarily what you expect for like a big, like if it were to be a divine liturgy, what you would expect for that. Moving on to Church of the Resurrection in New Albany. This is my home parish where I grew up and all of that. Yeah, it looks like
a church, but not necessarily a Catholic or an Orthodox one, or anything that we've seen thus far, aside from maybe the conferences. And so it's not what you expect, but still, it has the liturgy, it has the words of consecration, it has all these things, and singing and all of that.
Humbly we pray that partaking of the body and blood of Christ, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit.
So this, for example, is something like you would see at one of these average Catholic masses. It's beautiful, sung, but they do something they shouldn't. We have musical accompaniment violating the general instruction of the Roman Missal number 32 during the Eucharistic prayer, and so it just shouldn't be done. And so they take some liberties that are not granted to them. Again, that's not saying anything bad or good about any particular parish. It's kind of the way that things are right now in the church, but just a note. One of the things that the church took liberties with, and I alluded to this earlier, was architecture. And you can see that both at my home parish and here at San Marco Roman Catholic Church down in Marco Island, Florida. And so it's otherwise decent, except for the altar area. Like, the priest is a step above the rest of the altar. I believe his chair is actually a step above the altar itself. You know how you have steps going up to the altar? And then sometimes another step for like a high altar, but the priest chair itself is above that. So that's an oddity. And then it's also like see-through or mirror or something to the back, so that some people are seeing it like it is kind of ad orientem, but it's not, because the readings are still proclaimed out towards the people, but not some of the people on the other side of like the glass wall thing or mirror wall thing. It's a whole thing. So again, architecture is something to talk about when we talk about like these average churches. It doesn't just pertain to good or bad architecture, as we can see here at St. Aloysius, a very beautiful church here in Columbus. But they just they added an altar where there didn't need to be an altar. There is a beautiful altar, a beautiful high altar that could be used. And they chose to plop an altar down in the center that, for lack of a better term, lacks the beauty of that high altar. And so again, not good or bad either way, but again, just a note of what these average Catholic churches sometimes do with their liturgies. And I think it happens across the board, whether it be Latin Rite or any rite. You're going to have churches that do things well, and you're going to have them that sometimes stray.
It's just after 11:45, and I left Divine Liturgy early because it was going on for 2.5+ hours. They just started distribution of Holy Communion, and in my experience, all the liturgies are basically over at that point. So I don't think I really missed anything. The Anaphorae took over an hour. The Gospel wasn't read until an hour and 30 minutes in. So I guess those are kind of the things I wish I knew. We're now heading to Catholic Mass, as I have to get my Mass in for the day, as I have stuff going on this afternoon. That's why I left Divine Liturgy early. And so when we do this, it's going to be at St. Aloysius, something like that, Catholic Church down here in downtown Columbus. So see you guys soon.
So this one's a real shame, because I believe that this parish is actually closing due to real present, real future, or could possibly be closing. As you can see, a beautiful church architecturally, and the organ here. And finally, just not to be a dead horse, but the last one I want to talk about in the average category is St. Sylvester. And the sad part about this is the only church in Vinton County, Ohio. It's a super small church, very low number of parishioners, but alas, it has to stay alive to keep the faith in the diocese. So again, average, below average, the best Catholic church you've ever been to, it doesn't matter. They're all Catholic, and most importantly, we need that Catholic presence in areas like Vinton County, Ohio. So now we move on to what I call the impressive Latin Rite churches. And so these are the people who, have good architecture and also follow the norms of the church very well, very closely following Sacrosanctum Concilium, and keeping things that are traditionally part of the rite, such as, male servers, ad orientem worship, perhaps communion rails, use of the organ, chant, things like this that are not only just unique to the Latin Rite, but to the universal church as integral portions of the liturgy. And so here we have St. Joseph's Cathedral in downtown Columbus for the Diocese of Columbus, and St. Mary's in Hudson, New York. We'll give you some clips from inside there here soon.
Today is the Feast of the Assumption. It's actually anticipatory Feast of St. Maximilian Kolbe. Behind me we have St. Mary's. There's a steeple. I'll take some pictures, of course, once we get inside and all that.
So here's a look again at the outside, a very stony, old church, very traditional architecture as we look around the inside of the church here. Stained glass everywhere, of course, the stations, super tall ceilings as well. And as we move back out to the front of the church, again, more stained glass all over the place. Very, just a beautiful church overall.
His wondrous resurrection and ascension into heaven, and as we look forward to his second coming, we offer you in thanksgiving this holy and living sacrifice.
So as we saw there in that last clip, they used a communion rail at an ordinary form parish. So, quite interesting, quite impressive for them to be able to do that. We now move on to St. Paul the Apostle Roman Catholic Church, one of the largest parishes in the Diocese of Columbus, actually my territorial home parish. Beautiful church, beautiful architecture. Could use a little work on the sound system though, but it's still a wonderful church. Here's a little bit of that. And now we move to St. Thomas More University Parish and Student Center, where I went to college for 3 years, was MC here at this beautiful parish. They just built it during my freshman year of college, and so just a wonderful parish. I have a lot to say about it, so let's move into those clips.
All right, welcome to weekend number 2 of the traditional liturgy analysis project. We're going to my main parish I go to here in Norman, because this is the last weekend in Norman, St. Thomas More University Roman Catholic Church. So we will go there.
So here is the inside of St. Thomas More, a beautiful church, art, architecture, statues, the whole 9 yards. Just a wonderful parish. Happy to go there. They used the high altar for ad orientem mass. So yeah, just a wonderful church. That's all I'm going to say. Video up in the corner. And now we move on to the Latin Mass, the extraordinary form of the Latin Rite, and only the second type of rite that we'll discuss in the Latin Rite. We won't discuss the other two. This is Holy Cross. I served a solemn high nuptial Mass. They also offer Mass ad orientem there, maybe not regularly, but at least I saw them do that at one point. So that was cool, I guess. So ad orientem Mass, beautiful church. Again, the whole 9 yards. Here, passing by, you should have just seen some pictures from that Mass. And here is the first extraordinary form Mass that I went to. This was at St. Leo's Oratory in downtown Columbus, ran by the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Peace, priest in communion with Rome, the Bishop of Columbus, and all that good stuff. So here's the adventure to that. A little clip. You're going to have to strain to hear it because it's the priest, no mic. It's really back to their tradition there. And so here is what I have from it.
Today is the Solemnity of Pentecost. I'm outside my house because I think we're going to have a very tight window when we get to the church we're going to today. We're going to St. Leo's Oratory in Columbus, Ohio. It's an ICKSP, Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest. Latin Mass, we're going to High Mass. So we're going to see how it goes. I'll keep you guys updated. Of course, have videos, and we'll talk about it soon.
So moving on to the last of the rites for the whole video. It all comes down to this. The West Syrian Rite, Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Catholic Mission Church in Columbus, Ohio. They actually use St. Andrew's Church in Upper Arlington, Ohio, as their worship space on Sunday evenings. So this is my experience.
So already I'm at St. Andrew's in Upper Arlington. Right behind me, we're going to Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Missions. Been a while since I've been to a Maronite Mass. Really excited to get back to it. There's no cars in the parking lot, so hopefully this goes well.
So I am a quarter Lebanese, and so the Maronites are, related to me somehow, I guess. But this is the first Maronite church I ever went to in Norman. Started going there about once a week just to say hi. It's a lot of older people, super small community, very mission church. That's what it is. That's kind of how it works. In these smaller communities like that. I have a lot to say. Here are some clips of me talking about it and all of that fun stuff.
Happy Pascha. Yeah, so that was last night. We're this morning now, the 5th Sunday of Easter for the Roman Catholics, the feast day of Our Lady of Lebanon for the Maronites, where I'm at today, and of course, Holy Pascha for our Orthodox brethren. Today, May 2nd, also my mom's birthday, so celebrating Our Lady and my mom on the same day, always a cool thing to do. So we're going to go into Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Church here in Norman. I've been here several times, so I at least understand this liturgy.
So as you see, there's statues, icons everywhere. A beautiful church. They do the best with what they have. It's awesome to see a church like this. So yeah, I guess that's it. I guess we're done. These are all the churches I recorded and had something to say about. All of these are great. I strongly encourage, if you're a Latin Rite Catholic, to go to the other ones just to try them. And by try, I don't mean with the idea of converting, but with the idea of experiencing, of learning about the other parts of the church and how rich and deeply beautiful and steeped in tradition they are, just like our own. It's definitely worth it. And I say this not only as a religious studies person with a religious studies degree, and not only as a seminarian, but as somebody who cares about the church. I mean, I wrote both of my theses in undergrad on the liturgy, and I'm continuing to study the liturgy now, obviously, in the Roman Catholic Seminary. And so doing all of this, I think, is extremely important to our understanding of the church, experiencing these things. You might not like them all. Like, honestly, I don't like a low mass because it's quiet and there is no participation of the people, which is, I think, a very important aspect of the liturgy. And, I appreciate the things of tradition, like the architecture being good and, the choir singing well and, men being of service at the altar as an inspiration for vocations. All of these things are extremely important. I can't overstate it. But it was just a wonderful experience, and I fully intend on continuing to visit more and more different rites, different Catholic and Orthodox churches to, experience the fullness of the universal church. So that's it. This is the whole video. I say that's it, and it's 40 plus minutes long. So, well, maybe a bit under if I finish this up in time. Anyways, see you guys next time. Chris Dixon.